Hey everyone, how are you? Today we're going to be going over power pole saws. Power pole saws are a great tool for us. We use them when we have branches that we need to cut, but they're too big to cut with our pruners. If we didn't have our power pole saws, the only other way we'd be able to get those branches is either by climbing the tree and cutting them, or getting some type of equipment like a bucket truck to them. So they do save us a lot of work. They are a tool. There are some things we need to know about them to use them safely. Before we use them, let's go over the PPE that we're going to need. So we're going to need a hard hat and appropriate ear protection. We're going to need safety glasses. We're going to need chainsaw pants. High vis, especially when we're working roadside, it's mandatory. We're also going to need approved safety boots, and when we're using the saw, we're going to need leather gloves. So next, let's go over pre-use inspection, how to fuel it up, and then we'll talk about actually operating the saw. Pre-use inspection. Before we use the saw, we want to make sure that it is in working order, everything functions properly. So we need to know some basic components of the saw, and we need to check their operation. So starting up at the front here is the on-off switch. We also have, this is the lever underneath, that's your throttle. And the top is your interlock. So your throttle shouldn't work unless you have your interlock pressed down. So that's functioning properly. What else we want to check is our throttle position. Make sure that it does operate. And you can see there, it looks like it's stuck on the half choke position. I shouldn't be able to put it into the run position without grabbing the throttle. Once I hit the throttle, it'll pop into the run position. On the top, I have my primer ball. On the back is the pull cord, and the gas tank and gas cap is also on the back. So I gotta make sure that that is on and tight. Now let's check out the other side. On the other end of the saw, we have the saw attachment. So just like on a chainsaw, we have a bar and a chain. We also have an oil reservoir. And on the side here, we have a bar nut and a place to tension the chain. So that chain is too loose, so we wouldn't operate the saw like this. We're going to adjust the chain before we operate it. To adjust the chain, we're just going to loosen off the bar nut. We're going to take our still wrench and tension the chain. So we're going to bring the chain up so that it's sitting in our guide bar. Raise that bar up and you can see the chain dropped again. So we still need to get that so that the chain sits in our guide bar. And once we have that all tightened up, we're just going to tighten our bar nut back down. Make sure that your bar nut is tight, otherwise when you go to operate this, the chain and bar can come off. So now we want to check that we didn't over tighten this, so we're going to use our wrench, not our hands, and we're going to make sure that that chain will rotate freely. And you can see now it is not hanging off the bar. Let's go over safety precautions and starting procedures with a pole saw. Pole saw is not an insulated tool. So when we operate the pole saw, we have to maintain at least 50 feet from any power line. We also have to maintain 50 feet from other people. So we now have a tool that we can reach really far in the tree, we can do a lot of work with. From the ground, we can cut large limbs with it. So we also need a larger work area. So like I said, 50 feet, it doesn't matter if it's a person that's on the crew working with you, any person, or power lines. We're going to give lots of clearance when we're using this tool. We're also going to have one person operate it. Can't have someone else holding the end while you are operating this. One difference between a pole saw and a chainsaw is a chainsaw has a brake on it. A pole saw does not have any type of chain brake on it. So when the motor's going, the chain's going to be spinning, so you have to be aware at all times where the end of the saw is. You have to be in control of that. So that being said, you also have to have a firm grip on the pole saw when you're operating it. When you're cutting, you have to have two hands on it. When we carry the pole saw, we want to carry it so that the blade is behind us and the motor is in front of us. This is how you would safely carry it in this position. You're not going to carry it like this. The reason being, if we fall, we're falling towards the blade. When you start the saw, there's two methods to start it. We can either start it on the ground. If we're starting on the ground, you have to ensure that the blade is clear of any obstacles. Like I said, when this starts, the blade's going to start spinning on us. The other way to do it is to place the saw firmly, securely in the tree so that, same thing, the blade is still clear of any obstacles and we can still control this. So I'm going to go over starting it now. I'm going to use the tree method. I have all my PPE on, so I'm going to put hearing protection on. So I'm going to turn the throttle to cold start. One hand is securely on the saw, and the other hand I'm going to use to start it. Once it goes to full stroke, I'm going to change it to it's in the half stroke for a couple of seconds, you can see how that warm up, and now it's in the run position. Now that it's running, I can operate it. Now that it's running though, I'm not going to put it down and walk away from it. I'm always going to stay in control of it. If I want to put the saw down, I'm going to turn it off and then walk away from it. Don't leave the saw running unattended. So let's go over cuts and how to use a harness. So the pole saw can be a bit of an awkward tool to operate, especially when we have it extended. So when this is extended, it gives us almost 20 feet of reach. So that can be a lot to maintain with just two hands. We have the option of adding a harness to this. So there's a couple different types of harnesses. I'm just going to show you the one which is a shoulder strap. So to use the shoulder strap and to adjust it, it doesn't matter with the shoulder strap whether you're left-handed, right-handed. The shoulder strap you're going to take and go over the right shoulder, and it's going to sit on your left shoulder. And you can see the hook is facing forward. So we're always going to use the pole saw so that it sits. The motor is going to sit against our right hip. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you're left-handed, right-handed. If I have it against my left hip, and I try to operate it like this is improper. Now I have the exhaust coming right at me and sitting against my hip. You're always going to use it with the motor by your right hip. So to adjust the harness, that hook is going to go clip on to that harness. So you can see where it's sitting right now, it's motor heavy. So the tip wants to come up. So I'm going to need to adjust this down. So right now it's fairly balanced. That's not bad. That's not a bad starting point to get my height. So the height isn't too bad. It's right around my hips, which is where you want it. But if you look, that trigger is fine when I'm holding it horizontal, but if I go to use the saw now, it's going to be out of reach. So I need to slide that harness so that's down to the bottom. Is usually, for me, a good starting point. It's fairly comfortable right now, and right now when I go to operate it, if I have the saw up, I can still control the trigger. So this is where I'm going to want to use the saw. When I'm actually using the saw, one other limitation we have, or one thing we have to keep in mind, is the angle of the saw itself. We don't want to use the saw straight up because we don't want pieces falling on us. We shouldn't use the saw at more of an angle than from the ground 60 degrees up. So if we're operating it at 70, 80, 90, we're putting ourselves at risk of having a piece come down on top of us. So we only want to use it 60 degrees and down. So we can use the pole saw horizontally. We could use the pole saw from the bucket if we wanted to. That is okay. It's that 60-degree angle. And remember, if there's power lines or people, we want to be 50 feet away from them. Now I'm going to demonstrate how to properly perform a cut. We're going to perform cuts the same way we would as if we were using a 3-cut method with our handsaw. So we're first going to do an undercut, then our top cut, and then we'll finish it off with a collar cut. That's a basic operation of the power pole saw. Remember, before you use any new tool, you always want to go over the owner's manual, make sure you're wearing and using all the appropriate PPE, and make sure you're familiar with the tool before you use it. Alright everyone, I hope you stay safe. You cannot have multiple people using this tool at once. You can't have someone helping you and holding the end. Only you can operate the tool.